Welcome to Bonano TV, where we discuss issues in Zambia. Today we are speaking about border posts. I am your co-host Tobias Mutale, and my co-host is Elias Matanje. Welcome, Mr. Matanje.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mtale. It's my pleasure to be on the program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matanje. Today we are speaking about border posts in Zambia. And I know that yourself, being in Kenya, that several times you have used some border posts. Which ones do you love to use, Mr. Matanje?
Thank you so much, Dr. Mtale. Yeah, so you are correct saying I try to travel or move maybe between countries. So just to mention some of the famous borders, of course, it will depend the mode of transport that I'll be using that time visiting home. So one of it, I would use the flight that is from Jomo Kenyatta, let's say, to Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. Alternatively, I would also make my trips by road.
Yes.
So that is driving from Nairobi via Tanzania, and then you come to Zambia through Tunduma on the Tanzanian side and Nakonde on the Zambian side. So my most famous route, basically anyway, because I would carry one or two things, especially luggage, would be by road. So that is through Nakonde.
Mm. Through Nakonde. Wow. I have used also border posts before, especially coming from the southern region, especially traveling from South Africa. The famous one that I have used one is Chirundu border post. It is quite a busy one, but I've also used Kazungula border post, where there is now a very beautiful bridge. I have not used that particular bridge yet. The time that I used Kazungula Botswana route, there was a ferry, and it was quite scary because then you have to go on a ferry. If you have a car, you have to put it on the ferry. Then you are charged to cross the river, which was a bit not a very stable bridge, and then coming to the offices there at Kazungula itself. Apart from that, in the past, I also used Chavuma. Chavuma is the one that leads into Angola. I never went deep into Angola, but just crossed a bit and then came back into Zambia. So apart from these border posts that we have mentioned, there is also Mwami border post, Mwami Muchinji border post. This is located, I think, in the Eastern Province, and it's a border post between Zambia and Malawi. So these are some of the border posts that we have. Airports also are ranked as border posts. Mr. Matanje, can you hear me?
Oh, okay. There was a bit of a break. You posed the question.
Yes, I did pose a question that do we also consider airports as border posts?
Yeah, there are border points, sure, because there are entries also of
Yes,
people, coming in the country, let's say Zambia. So now they could be called border points or maybe airport immigration points. Now, all of them will still be considered at the same level, in the sense they will facilitate entry
yes,
and exit of
mm,
people coming in the country and people also going out of the
mm,
country. So they'll have some similar services they offer, let's say, to people that are traveling, especially at international level. So I would also
yes.
consider them the same to be border points or points of entry and points of exit between nations.
Yes, you are right. I think for the people who are flying, I think the airports they are the entry point for those people. And what they do to you at a land border post, they will do the same to you at the airport. They will check your bags, they will check your airport, sorry, your passports, and they will also check the goods that you are carrying. And if you are into business, probably they will get some, they will charge you some tariffs on the goods that you are carrying. Yeah, thank you for that discussion there, Mr. Matanje. What about what is the role of these border posts? Why do we have these border posts? What is their significance? I know that at one stage Africa was one; there were no borders. Now we have borders. What they there for? What are the significance? What is the significance of these border posts?
Okay, thank you so much, Ramtale. So I would say the importance or significance of border checkpoints. Yeah, now you also raise a point, looking at the time in history when we didn't have these boundaries that divide states. So where we would assume and think how life was then, that maybe people, just moved between places without any consideration, like, you have to be given days to cross into a region where you have to get either documents, so people just moved freely. As much as I wouldn't really say it could be a time I was there, I was born at a time when these border things were already in place. So just to say or mention what is their significance at the moment, in a time that have already been in existence. So they facilitate, let's say, control movements of people. They facilitate movements of goods or cargo between nations. Okay, so they become also places of integration, if I may say, social and economic integration between states, because that's where a lot of trade, in the sense of moving of cargo, human resource, takes place, okay, between nations. So if you need a certain commodity that, let's say, is not found in one state, it could be found in another place. So the borders will facilitate, that movement. They will also facilitate in the way, check what is legal and what could be illegal, that should be moved between nations or states. So just to check, what are criminal activities, things that could not be allowed in one place and maybe allowed in another. So just to check that movement, both cargo, if I may put it like that, and people. So not everybody you can assume they have a good intention when they move into places. So different people have different reasons. So it's just in order, to check who is who and what are the missions or agendas of people, let's say, moving into a country. So border points will basically facilitate that.
Yes, you are very right, Mr. Matanje. Well discussed there. The movement of people and also the movement of goods must be controlled because as a country, you want to know who is entering into the country, but also who is going out, what are they carrying, what is their mission. So it's very important because security of a state is very important, and people must be checked. So as much as we are checking people and the goods there, I think the border posts are also points of revenue collection. Can you say something about collecting revenue? In Zambia, are we collecting enough revenue from our border posts?
Yeah. I would say we are, as much as I may not have the exact statistics, but
Yes,
based on the activities that you'll find, let's say even Kunakonde, you can
yes,
talk of the other border, especially this one between Zambia and the Congo, Kasumbalesa, where a lot of copper oil, okay, gets moved between Zambia and Congo. You talk of, let's say, again, borders like Kuchirundu that will extend towards South Africa. I would say yes, those border checkpoints are really a crucial place for collecting revenue, which goes towards sustaining, let's say, an economy or the economy of Zambia, because there's
mm,
a lot of trade that will take place around there. So the government collects some revenue in terms of duties on imports and exports, especially on things that are supposed to enter the country. So they'll collect revenue. So for
yes,
sure, they bring a lot of revenue and do something in terms of improving the local economy.
yes. I think yes, you are right. The borders in Zambia, they borders bring in a lot of revenue. For instance, when you want to bring a car that you've bought from, let's say, Dubai or China or even Japan, and they come to the port in Tanzania, and when you drive them from Dar through Nakonde, you have to pay the duty for you to bring in the car. And also, there are taxes that are special taxes. And I hear that in Zambia we have bad news when it comes to taxes. I hear there is carbon tax, then there is road tax, then there is also a council levy that you have to pay. And there are thousands and thousands people who are crossing Kazungula, people who are crossing Nakonde, who are crossing at Chirundu and also other borders within Zambia. And the money that you pay there is not little money. It's a lot of money. And I think billions and billions of kwachas are collected at these borders. And one of the some of the busiest borders like Kasumbalesa, Nakonde, and Chirundu, there is lots of money that is collected in these borders. So if we really can manage our borders well, we should be able to collect a lot of income from our borders or revenue from our borders to be able to put in um, other places where money is needed in Zambia. So, having said that, Mr. Matanje, what are the other agencies that are working there at the border post? I know the police is there too. You have already spoken about security because we don't know the intention or the intentions of the people coming into the country. So the police are there to check, probably even the entire security cluster is there, even the army, the soldiers are there to make sure that the enemies do not enter our country. So, what are the other agencies that government agencies that are working at the border post? Can you speak about some of them?
Yeah, we have revenue authority. That's maybe to say the customs. So they are in charge of things to do like customs duty to make
Mm.
sure that cargo that gets in the country, those that are not at the category of free trade, they are taxed. So we have also the immigration department. So they look into people's status in terms of like giving them days or if they are required to obtain a visa before they enter into the country. So I think you mentioned something also to do with the security. So that's like the police. We have also the Ministry of Agriculture. They look into issues of illegal, let's say, logging. So we have also the Ministry of Health. So they also try to check in issues to do with the disease control that, like the issue of pandemic corona that was there recently, or maybe another outbreak where you may not want to move a disease into the country. So you can also have those that also ensure standards of goods so that not counterfeit goods enter into the country.
The Bureau of
So
Standards, yes.
the Bureau of Standards, yes.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that. You articulate so well regarding the agriculture sector. We've seen in Zambia of late where the mukula tree has been exported to other countries. In fact, smuggled out of Zambia, and I think the agriculture assisted by I think
Ministry
even
of
the
Forest.
security clusters, they have been trying to stop the selling or the exporting of mukula tree. So obviously at the border checkpoints, that's where maybe this evil can be controlled, because I think the current government should make sure that the mukula tree is protected. We don't want such a species to go into extinction because of over harvesting. So thank you for that point. And the issue of checking diseases like the coronavirus. The coronavirus, definitely, um, we were being checked at the border posts. If you didn't have your certificate, you were then turned back. You could not enter the country. But also the customs office. The customs office, they are always different from the Zambia Revenue Authority. They seem to be the same, but they are slightly different. So the customs, they will check definitely the documents. They are responsible checking your passports and making sure that you have the right documents when you enter into the country. So thank you for explaining that area,
So
especially
maybe just
regarding the
before you move to the next point,
yes,
can I erase something?
yes, by all means, yes.
So maybe it was just to still check, maybe from your end, the conditions. What could be your experience, let's say, when it comes to clearing of either it is people
Yes.
or it could be trucks. So I don't know what could be your experience around that, how Zambia is performing. Now, I was
Sorry,
thinking of,
yes, I didn't get your question. Please, can you repeat it for me again, Mr.
yeah,
Matanda?
your experience regarding to clearance, let's say, of people or trucks. So,
Yes.
what will be your experience when it comes to the performance? Either it is the immigration officers, the Zambian Revenue Authority guys. Okay, so what could just be your experience of clearing both goods, cargo, and people?
Look, my experience has been, I think it's a mixed bag, so to say. When I have traveled a few times, coming from, let's say, South Africa, going through Zimbabwe, and then through Chirundu and into Lusaka. When I just, the time that I'll do, if for instance I'm not carrying anything, I'm not driving, my experience is quite good. But what I've noticed, that as soon as you drive, the journey is not very smooth, especially at the border on the side of Zambia. They are too strict to Zambians who are entering Zambia, such that they even want to take simple things, such as the food that you have bought for your family, and a few clothings that
Hmm.
you have bought, as long as they are new. They are sometimes quite strict officers there who want to collect from you even simple things. Then sometimes, even when you have the right documents for the vehicle, they want to make the situation so difficult for you, so that you can be lured into giving some bribes. And I find this to be a little bit disturbing. If I think Zambia wants to grow business, if they want to encourage Zambians to come into the country and bring into the country all sorts of business, I think the borders must change the way they handle people. So you don't feel very comfortable when you go some of these borders, especially the Zambian border. Kuti balefwano okupoka utundele shushtirya abantu twakutwala
Na-
ku
na- 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 Natufikubala.
nsapato. When they see nsapato za nyowani, bafuna okupoka at where is the receipt for these shoes that are costing very little money, barely 500 rand. So it is quite disturbing, the way we are treated as Zambians at our own borders. You come from Bridge, you come through Botswana, or whichever other borders you have used before Zambian borders. But when you come to the Zambian borders, they treat you as if you are a foreigner, as if you are a persona non grata. So I think if we want people to move freely across the borders, we must change. We must change the way people are treated at the border posts. I don't know
Yeah.
what your experience is, but
I agree with you totally, Ndalapo. I think it's almost a similar experience I would have also, especially if you move by road, Kuna Konde. Now, I can give a bit of some credit. Let's say the infrastructure that they have built there, it's quite massive.
mm,
The so-called one border stop also. But Vemukamba, when it comes to
mm,
treatment, it's a similar thing. Though you may not always end up like giving some kind of token in the form of a bribe to those guys, either it's the agent. Now, it is the process itself. It is very tedious. Mapepa out ungankalepa
yes,
border, by the time you get cleared on the Zambian side, as you put it also, even when in Nakonde, you can't clear that place. Maybe other people have different experiences, but personally, I've never, for the many times I've gone through that border, let's say like in 2 3 hours at Usirize clearance,
yes, yes,
hiyo si chitika hiyo.
yeah,
So I think your observation is quite in order. The efficiency of our border checkpoints, there is need to improve, okay, to make services quite faster. So
yes,
that delayment, waste a lot of time. So if you're in a business person, you'll waste, revenue now there where you're supposed to deliver your goods, you do your business. Now you get stuck per border, just simple things. Kushita clear motoka. I mean, maybe it is the way they have designed it, it's correct, but it's just a long process.
yes, yes. You are right. For instance, clearing a vehicle that has been purchased from China or Japan. I remember one time I took a friend of mine to Dar. Then we came at not Tunduma, the Zambian side, which is Nakonde.
Nakonde.
It, it took us 3 days to
Mm.
clear a vehicle there. And as you are there, you obviously have to pay money to the customs or to the Zambia Revenue Authority, but at the same time, you waste a lot of money um, paying or those sleeping places, hotels, and so forth. So I believe that we need to find a way that people come at the border and they are cleared, their vehicles are cleared very quickly. And I feel sorry for our truck drivers who contribute enormously to the growth of our economy, but they have to spend days, if not weeks, at the borders before they are cleared. So, what are some of the challenges apart from these we have spoken about? How do you find Chilundu, Kasumbalesa, Nakonde are the places where you feel comfortable, Mr. Matanje?
Uh, okay, depends with the movement. If like I'm to cross immediately, I wouldn't bother so much, like looking at the conditions for sleeping. So I'll just be on the move on the road and sort myself ahead. Now, if it happens you have to spend a night per border, some of the challenges in my facilities, like my hotel facilities at our border posts points, either Nakonde, could be Kazungura. Now, they are really so low. Okay, apart from being low in terms of standards, they are also almost non-existence. In other
Yeah.
words, there are so few. So that is one of the greatest challenge. Personally, I do face. So if you're at Nakonde, you would sometimes prefer ngatufuna kugona hapo. You go to the other side, Tunduma, Tanzania. So you have relatively nice hotels there or
Yes.
lodges where you can at least spend a good night. Now, if you
Mm.
come to our side, Uku, so I don't know if it's the government that needs to do something, like put up some nice structures, my hotels, where, if you are made to spend a night per border, you can have somewhere comfortably to relax. So that has been one of the biggest challenge. Okay.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
even to go to the other side, the Kazungura, at some point, when I would cross to Botswana, there isn't actually much. I don't know if maybe now there is some structures near the border.
At Kasane.
Kazungura,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, where they have built that bridge now, dealing away with the ferry. So there actually there's almost none of such facilities. So you
Yes.
are hoping that every day once they are crossing there, there's no derailment. They have to be on their move and they reach like Livingstone.
Yeah.
Now, Nakonde, honestly, yeah, sure, something just need to be done. Either I don't know if it's the private guys who can come to the rescue of that place or it's the government. Yeah, the facilities are just so wanting.
Yeah. They are
That has been one of the
pathetic.
greatest challenges. They're pathetic. Yes, they are
Yeah.
really
No,
pathetic.
you are right, Mr. Matanje there. If you go to Nakonde, there are hotels there, but the standard is not international standard, you won't find a five-star hotel there. People would be looking for high quality um, hotels, high quality sleeping places, but you don't find these things. Apart from the corruption, infrastructure around the border posts, the government needs to look into that. If we really believe that we want to improve business with our neighboring countries, our infrastructures at the borders must be of top quality so that when people come, when tourists pass there, they would want to return again. Some of
Sure.
these places don't even have clean toilets. You are at the border, some of these are border posts. You are at the border posts, you can't go to some of those toilets because they are not clean. They are pathetic. So we implore, we ask our new Dawn government, which I believe is starting on a good footing, to look at these things, because I believe that they give us pride. If you arrive at the border posts, if you arrive at the airport and it's looking excellent, it's looking clean, like the new Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, it gives you a sense of pride.
Oh,
And
sure.
you want to invest back at home. So these challenges are indeed at the border posts. Uh, they 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 do not enhance business, and our president is always talking about a business. So we can't do good business if you go to Kasumbalesa and you have to spend a night there and you can't find a safe place, a safe hotel. If you went to Chirundu or you went to Nakonde and other border posts, they must be places where you want to go back, places that can be admired. And I think our governments can work on that.
Yeah, just to add on that, in terms of trade and business around the border, you put it so well there, Bamtale. Now, I
Yeah.
would still go back to the example of Chirundu. I mean, sorry, Nakonde and Tunduma. So you find that on the other side, yeah, Tanzania, even Zambians themselves, they do a
Mm,
lot of business on the other side, because there the government at least has
mm,
put in some mechanisms to improve facilities around, including roads, okay, hotels, which of course are privately owned. So that has helped a lot to boost the economy. So you find that even Mazambians were many per border. So there is more activity on the other side, because there are people who just cross without, like being stamped from a passport. So they just cross between Nakonde and Tunduma.
mm.
So it's really booming on the other side as compared to side Kwato.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just based on the issue of infrastructure, as you put it there, facilities, my
Yes,
hotels.
yes.
So people who ever gone up a border, you'll find that they would prefer to go and spend a night on the other side.
On the
The
Tanzanian
following day,
side.
yeah, the
Yes,
following
yes.
day, they wake up for clearance, and yet they'll have parked or left their cars on the Zambian side, which I do even myself,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
on our side, the facilities are wanting.
Yes, they are wanting. No, this is very important what we are talking about today. And we want our president, HH, to please take note that we need to take special care of our border posts, because these are points where revenue is collected for the nation. If a lot of revenue is collected from those points, why do they still look like ghost towns? Those are places, because a lot of revenue is collected from those border towns. They must also look beautiful, they must also look taken care of. If you are at Nakonde or Chirundu, especially Nakonde, there is a lot of dust there. Everything is dust. Why can't they make that town clean with
Very definitely.
international first class facilities, so that people who arrive at Nakonde or Kasumbalesa, they don't go across to look for better facilities. I think we are in a hurry to develop. That's why we are talking like this. We need to have first class facilities at the border, because millions are collected from the border posts. Why do they remain so deplorable despite collecting millions? So then, Mr. Matanje, what do you think must be the role of government to improve these border post services?
The role of the government,
What
okay,
must
one
the
of
government do to
mm,
enhance the movement of goods, movements of um, people?
so one of the things, just like in the way we have shared, looking at the state of facilities, performance wise, in terms of service delivery and delayment of people being cleared per border. So outside, just maybe the government can look into things of regional integration. So let's say integration that would look into matters of like the common market initiative, how it can improve, okay, movements of people, let's say could be between Congo and Zambia, could be Namibia and Zambia, could be Tanzania. So maybe just to look into how they can loosen up the conditions or the requirements for people to enter, let's say maybe Tanzanians to enter Zambia, of which if they can get into such agreements between Zambia, for example, and Tanzania, to remove what I would call barriers of entry. So that would be something that would also go a long way improving relationships, apart from relationships, improving trade. So those requirements that are so many when it comes to crossing borders, if some of those things can be lifted or removed, it will be something for me, that will help people now to start crossing and doing trade. So you also mentioned something about my truck drivers and how sometimes life is very difficult for them to be cleared. So that can also help those guys to move and do trade, okay,
Mm.
deliver their goods in time, come back, okay. So that's something I would suggest if the government can look into that, at least let them have some
Mm.
common approach, especially when it comes to releasing the
What about
barriers or
the
restrictions.
passport, Mr. Matanje? Do we need passports? Do I need a passport to go to Tanzania or pakuya ku Congo? Uh,
Mm,
niyenera kunkala na passport nthawi zonse siningasebenzese chabe kamutu. Mm?
yeah,
Muchiwembe
okay.
kukaitana
Because
kamutu ka NRC.
Kakaena Rasika,
Mm.
yeah, I would say it could be a good point or something good to consider. So you take an example like what's happening in some of the places between, you can say, of Kenya and Rwanda. So they have
Yeah.
removed actually the need for somebody to work within those countries to obtain a work permit. So I think that could be something, even maybe Zambia, through their bilateral talks with their neighboring states, they can also look into those directions where they have to lift certain restrictions that make it a bit difficult for
Yes.
people to move around, to work, to trade. So if
Yes.
mm,
Yes, I think the Comesa region should start looking into removing some of the restrictions. And I think the removal of the passport, traveling with the passport, or instead of removing it, we can also have a regional passport.
oh yeah,
But otherwise, we people can also use just normal identity cards to be able to cross into Tanzania or Congo or Malawi or Zimbabwe. Because you remember before we spoke about all these people in these different countries being one before we were divided by the Berlin Conference in 1884 stroke 1885, somewhere there. We were one people. So we need to slowly begin to going back to what we were. And I am glad that Kenya and Rwanda are moving towards removing some of the barriers. If you are able to work as a Kenyan, if you are able to work in Rwanda without having to apply for a work permit, that should be excellent. That should be a heavy barrier that has been lifted. Yeah.
yeah,
What
it's really
other
something recommendable.
Yes, what other
Mm.
things can the government do apart from passports? Yeah, the issue of one border post. Is it one border post? Do we call it one border post. That has also helped a lot, but we still think that goods and people can still move a little bit faster, especially if corruption is lessened. I still feel that corruption is still a huge barrier, and I hope that our new UPN government is going to look into the issues of corruption at the border post, because that's a big challenge that if the government deals with it, not only a lot of billions will be saved, but the movement of people and goods will move faster.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Any other point there? Do you think there is any other thing? I just want to take you to another issue which has nothing to do with borders before we come to an end. Um, the issue of um, Tayali. Tayali, I'm sure you have heard of one um, political leader called Tayali. He was put in cells and beaten by the police. What do you think about that?
Though he's a guy I've not followed so much, but at least I was able to listen to some of his comments that probably could have led later to his arrest or being chapered na polisi.
Mm, mm, mm.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I can say it's probably unfortunate that okay, the government would use state resources or state machinery to deal with somebody who was almost personal. Okay, let's say with the head of state in the comments he made prior to his arrest or the police,
Mm,
manhandling him. So I would say I think the government could have, okay, let's say if it's a personal thing, him and the head of state, whatever could have been their differences, they could have found a different approach. Okay, that is just the way I would look at it, because now he also made very personal, let's say, attacks, personal remarks, targeting an individual who currently is the head of a state, but now the state also to use state resources to deal with him. I think it wasn't in order for me.
yeah, you are right there. The use of state machinery to go for Mr. Tayari. But at the same time, I would say that we 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 want these political parties or opposition political parties to work as opposition parties as we know them. Their role to provide
To oversight.
checks and balances to help the government remain on the track. I think they are sometimes losing that track. I think Mr. Tayali is been very personal, especially towards the president. The way he speaks, sometimes he doesn't even know that he's breaking the law. Obviously, in the way you phrase something, the way you speak, you can end up breaking the law. And the people of Zambia, they expect Mr. Tayali and all other opposition party leaders, to provide proper checks and balances to help the government stay on track, because it is easy if the government is not kept in check to go astray. They are just human beings. So that's why these political parties are there. But if they are just being personal and petty, like Mr. Tayali, then it's not helping the nation. And you can see the reason why the police are also becoming personal and beating him the way it is. But I believe that torture is not allowed in international relations. At the international level, torture is not allowed, and neither is it allowed by our constitution. But also, torture is not allowed anywhere. What we are doing to what the police is doing to Mr. Tayali, it can also be transferred to our own homes where people will start torturing each other because people will think that is the right way of dealing with issues. Mr. Tayali must have been arrested, then charged and taken to court, and the courts will decide whether he must be incarcerated or not. I think this is where I stand with this issue. Political parties must provide checks and balances uh, for the state, must try to keep the government on the track and not just go personal and be bringing about petty issues and so forth. They
Sure.
might end up breaking the law. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
agree with you. So that's a good observation there.
yeah.
Yeah, the opposition must do the oversight, do the checks and balances of the government. So, I mean, for him to go personal on the head of the state, I think he also went overboard, okay, or took the issue out of order. So, if he had anything, tangible evidence, he could have raised the issue in the court, okay, than him just coming out, making statements. So yeah, unfortunately, anyway, it has gone that way.
Yes, yes. So that's why people are saying Vagauma, Vagauma Katayali. Yeah, so
Mnaimvila hapo ateze mseminari
yeah, I hear that he was a seminarian, and I thought that philosophy would help the chap
wisdom.
to use his wisdom and to be able to deliver good
Mm.
politics for the people of Zambia. But it looks like is just becoming too petty, and unfortunately is not providing proper services that an opposition party is supposed to provide. We are not seeing the maturity that is supposed to come from him as a president of the party. So yeah, that's what I would say. That's what
Mm.
I would say. So we pray for our country that we don't become brutal, but we also pray for a mature opposition party in Zambia. Um, just as we pray for our president to continue leading Zambia in the right direction, and the UPN government, we pray for a mature opposition party. Mr. Masanje, I think say a word to our viewers, please.
So maybe before I say away to the viewers, also just to congratulate some efforts being made by the government, especially regarding to the infrastructure. Ija Road, Yakuna Konde. So I saw somewhere that they're in top gear, rehabilitating or repairing the road. So I think that is recommendable. they can also extend that effort to some other parts like Munilunga. Okay, so those guys, I think, have been for so long in need to improve their road network,
Yes.
and places like also Kasumbalesa. So the roads also, I think there's some need. But overall, we can say the government is doing well, or maybe the projects that the previous government did, it's quite recommendable, improving the border points in terms of the buildings to make them also one-stop border. The nature of the structures that have been put, they're quite recommendable. So you go also to Kazungula, the project that has been put there of the bridge. So those are good efforts. So we just pray for them and wish them to continue in that spirit. So all in all, I really appreciate the viewers, Dr. Mtale, for this opportunity where we look at life at home and have a sober discussion on how life could be improved at home.
Yeah. Thank you so much, viewers. Thank you so much for joining us this evening at Bonano TV. Please do subscribe to our Facebook page and also our YouTube page. We love you, Zambia. Let's continue working together so that we can make a prosperous country. We love Zambia, and all of us, our voices, what we do for the nation is very important for the development of our nation. Thank you so much. God bless and sleep well. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.